Now, as you can tell, I'm not from around here. I'm from England originally, but I've lived in Orange County 51 years now. Most of it here in San Juan Capistrano, so I'm practically native. Now, anybody else from a different country? About a different state? Where?
Kentucky.
I've not been to Kentucky. I've been to country where?
South Carolina.
I've not been there. I've been to most of the northern states, but very few southern states. Oh, anybody else? You're all Californians, okay. Well, before we start walking around, I'm going to explain a little bit about the mission. Now, I take fourth graders around. I don't think we've got a fourth grader here, and I think we've got a couple back there. And that's when we're learning California history. So they come here on field trips, you know. So if you guys think I'm talking down to you, I'm talking to these guys, really. Now, just a quick history. Now, the first Europeans to see California was the Spanish. A Spanish sailor called Cabrillo sailed his ship up the California coast. Every now and then he'd plant a Spanish flag on the beach and say, "I claim this land in the name of the King of Spain." That's the way Europeans did in those days. If they went to land they thought wasn't civilized, they claimed it. There were thousands of Native Americans living here, but they didn't count. They weren't civilized, so therefore the land belonged to Spain. And then Cabrillo sailed his ship back down again. And then, strangely enough, nothing happened in California for over 200 years. Still sailed the ships up and down the coast and built a couple of little settlements, but that's about all it did. Then in the 1700s, the Russians, of that time down Alaska, they started coming into California. They were trappers. They were looking for animals, folks. They were trappers. They were looking for animals, getting sea otters mostly. Well, when the Spanish heard about the Russians coming down, they got kind of worried. They said, well, we better do something about California. Now somebody's going to take it over. Because the English, they were always a sneaker, you know, they were sniffing around as well. So what they decided to do, with their way of colonizing California, was to build a series of missions up the length of California, like this. This is the mission. And the idea of the mission was to educate the Native Americans, teach them how to grow crops like corn and wheat, how to breed cattle and sheep, how to make iron, how to make cloth, how to make pottery, all that kind of stuff. Because the Native Americans didn't know any of that. They'd been doing their own things for thousands of years and they were doing quite well, really. And also because Spain was a very religious country, they said, we'll also convert them to Christianity to make good Catholic town. So they put one man in charge of this, a Roman Catholic priest called Father Uniperis here, started building missions. By the time they'd finished, they built 21, right from San Diego to the other side of San Francisco. This particular mission, they started building this one in 1776. It was actually the seventh one to be built. It's the third one up from San Diego, but they didn't go 1, 2, 3, they dodged around a bit. This was the seventh one to be built, okay? Okay, folks, now we're going to start walking around. If you guys have any questions, and I love questions, especially if I know the answers, but I'm also going deaf, so you've got to speak up a little bit or hit me over the head and give me attention, okay? Any questions yet? No? We're no fourth graders, right? You two fourth graders? Okay, good. Okay, let's start walking, man. Right, deer, coyotes, rabbits, squirrels, whatever good kites, bring it down to the village for the ladies to cook. But a big part of the diet was acorns. This is the California live oak tree. There used to be thousands of these all over the place. The ladies would gather the acorns, I'm seeing out there right now, shell them, clean them up real good, put them on a rock like this, and get another stone and sort of grind it into a powder, mix that powder in water, warm it up. It's a big part of the diet. They look like porridge or oatmeal when it's finished. That's apparently very nourishing, very, very good for you. I've never tried it myself, but that's what they say. And they also made baskets. Now the baskets are made here in Southern California were some of the finest in the world. Some of them were so well made you could carry water without them leaking. Wonderful things. Now the children, nobody went to school, okay? There was no schools, you didn't have to go. But from a very early age, children were expected to help their parents. When the boys were about your age, they used to go out in the hills, do the hunting with their fathers. The girls would stay down in the village, gather the acorns, crush them, and making baskets, things like that. But they also had games like you guys do, like hide, go, seek, tag, things like that. So apparently it was not a bad life. Now this particular rock, this was found, it's an Indian village about 2 miles up in the valley, brought down here. Now these holes, what you see, they're not natural holes. But you know when you grind away at the acorns, you gradually wear the rock away. I've been told that deep hole there could be as much as 5,000 years old. Now whether it's 5,000 or not, it's certainly thousands of years old. So you can imagine how many hours Indian ladies have sat around this rock grinding away at the acorns. And they used to call it the gossip room. This is where they did the gossip. Okay, let's go this way. Okay, now this used to be the main entrance to the mission. Everybody came through here. All the people, the horses, the carts, everyone came this way. Now the mission is made out of adobe. Now what adobe is mud, water, horse manure, sand, straw. Make it into a block and bake it, you've got a building block. But it's not very strong. To build a wall out of adobe to support a roof like this, you've got to make the walls about so thick. That's why all the walls of mission are really thick like this. Now after the Spanish had been here a few years, they started making regular bricks. They started reinforcing the brick. They filled that in. As you see, we had a doorway back there. They filled that in with brick. Didn't need it anymore. Now this doorway, they filled this in with adobe. Now where's my fourth graders? Come on, all you fourth graders come over here. If you look at it, you'll see little bits of straw in it. That's to bind it together, to hold it together when it's baking it, so it doesn't fall apart. Now one feature about an adobe building, if it was hot out there and we came in here, you notice it's a lot cooler. An adobe building is nice and cool in the summer. In the winter, it retains some of its heat, but you've got to warm it up a little bit in the winter, okay? Okay, any questions yet? There's going to be a quiz at the end of the choice. You guys are going to think about it.
Is that an original timber?
Yeah, that's original timber, and I don't think we should hang around here too much longer. It's going to fall down here. Okay, let's go.
It's made of wood stone right there.
Okay, we're all here. Now, this here, as you see, this is it, we're in the centre courtyard of the mission. Wasn't always like this. When it was a working mission, this was a working area. All kinds of jobs going on. Butchering the cattle, skinning them, shearing sheep, making pottery, all kinds of jobs going on. Now what happened, remember the Spanish built the missions. And remember the 1820s, they had the Mexican Revolution. People in Mexico rose up, told all the Spanish to leave. Not just from Mexico, but from California, Arizona, Nevada, all the places where Spain owned in those days. And then the mission was more of a ranchero or a farm, and nobody's really looking after it. And people living around here looked at the nice tile roofs and said, those roofs would look nice on my house. So they started taking the roofs off the building. Now when you take the roof off an adobe building, remember adobe is basically mud, water, horse manure. You take the roof off it and it rains, it just washes it away. All our building over there and the building over here all got washed away, right down to practically nothing. Old photographs taken from here looking over there, all you can see are these columns. These columns are made out of bricks and they stayed up. Now they built that building up again in the 1920s, just like it was originally on the old foundations. This building over here, they built this up in the 1970s, there again on the old foundations, just like it was. Now this building along here, and the building at the end here, they didn't take the roofs off it. The reason for that, there was people living along here, so they left the roof on it. That's the church there, they left the roof on the church. So even though this was the first part of the mission to be built, it's still the original picture. In fact, this section of building here is actually the oldest building in California, this section of building right here. You know, it's not the oldest mission, we're number 7 in the chain, but most of the others got destroyed, washed away. You go to San Gabriel mission, which is the next one nearest Los Angeles, it's older than this one, but they'll proudly show you an adobe wall. They'll say this is the oldest wall in California. It probably is. But we have the oldest building. Okay, let's go. Oh, sorry, oh, no, you shouldn't ask me about plants.
Oh, okay. Crown of thorns. Okay.
But I'll tell you what they do. I'm very interested. I know one or two of them.
I know plants.
But they also have pamphlets at the gatehouse that describes all the plants.
Phil, look at the arbutus. It's like ours, but bigger. Isn't it gorgeous? That's called a strawberry tree or an arbutus. And if you have red petroleum, we have one that's smaller.
Hi. Your signature. What was your name?
The little berries almost look
Okay,
like
guys, we're
strawberries.
going here.
No. I think the birdies can.
Oh, okay, good. That's good.
Yeah.
It's a kitchen for the priests and for the soldiers and for visitors. The main kitchen over the other side. In two corners there'll be fireplaces, the other two corners little adobe ovens for cooking. As you see, we have a chimney in the ceiling for the smoke, and the black smoke marks, what you see around the ceiling, is smoke marks from over 200 years ago, when it was last used as a kitchen. We haven't got around to cleaning it up yet. I know you can say you've actually been in the oldest building in California, right? We're actually in the oldest building in California right now. Okay, let's go this way. Where's everyone else?
Eating the
They're taking
plastic
pictures
food.
or something.
Okay, now this is an interesting one. The Spanish priests were very protective of the unmarried ladies and young girls, so every night they'd lock them up in here and let them out in the morning to go about the work. Well, then they built the soldiers' barracks just at the back here, and they found the soldiers' barracks was too close to this room, so they moved this room over to the far side. We don't use it for that anymore. And maybe they should have locked up the soldiers, not the... That was put up at about 100 years ago. Not a ritual. That was a ventilation hall at one time. And then somebody put that up just to... But what it means, I'm not sure. Okay, let's go this way. Okay, now remember folks, this building was connected to this one at one time. They took the roof over here, this got washed away. So what we're looking at down here is the foundations from the old building. Archaeologists have left this open for us to see the foundations. Now then, about the swallows. Do you guys want to hear about the swallows?
Yes.
Okay. Now the swallows, they fly up from Argentina every March, fly up into Southern California, build nests and breed, and then September, October, fly back down to Argentina. Now they're cliff swallows. They like to build in high places. This was the only building around here, so there used to be hundreds of nests all over the place. Then they started building up Orange County, started building the schools, the malls, the freeways, as well as had plenty of places to build the nests. They stopped coming here. We ran out of food as well because they like to go after flying insects and want too much open land here. So we got worried about it because it was part of our tradition. They even wrote a song about the swallows coming to San Juan Capistrano. So what to do about it? Well, one of the things we did, we bought a few hundred ladybugs and threw them up in the air, and the swallows came and ate the ladybugs and took off. I see the nests up in the corner there. We built that. We built a few of them all around here, hoping that the swallows would come and say, well, we don't have to build a nest, so we already built one. But they ignored those as well. They still come to San Juan. I live about a mile down by the creek down here, and I see the swallows down there picking up the bits of mud to build the nest. I'll have to go and build the nest. In fact, to the back of my house, I have houses with eaves like that, and they're covered in swallows' nests. The people don't like it, they're all messy, so I want to send them back to the mission. We'll look after them. And we're trying different things to get them to come back. As we're walking around, I'll show a couple of things. And we still celebrate it. The 19th of March is the traditional day of them coming. And we have a big production going here, mariachi bands, the dancers, the schools. A full week of celebration in town, which is part of a big boozing party and everything else. Then on the Saturday, we have a big parade in town. It's the largest non-motorized parade in the country. This last March, there was 500 horses in the parade. Wow. That deep in horsemanship all the way through the town. It's a lot of fun. If you guys come and see the parade, give me a wave. I'm in it every year.
We will.
Oh, yeah, any questions here?
March 19th,
What?
March 19th.
That's a trip. Okay, this is part of the water system for the mission. There's a little well over there, but one was good. But we have Someone Creek runs to the back here. When it rained, they dammed the creek, keep as much water as they could. When they wanted water for the mission, let it run down here. There used to be three of these, one here, one across the middle, and one to the far side. And so they didn't have to go through the creek to get the water, to just get it down here. Now for you fourth graders, my fourth graders, it's called a Zanya. Now I remember, you might learn this at school. How I remember Zanya, think of lasagna. And you need to put that down, okay? Okay, now we're going to go through here. Okay, folks, this room we call the Native American room. All the artifacts in this room is what the Native Americans used before the Spanish came. Everything he had was made out of stone, or bone, or wood, or shells, or feathers. They had no iron. They didn't know how to make iron. Seems strange to think this, but just over 200 years ago, Stone Age people lived here in Southern California. And they had no cloth. All used for clothing was animal skins or feathers. As a rule, the ladies would wear a skirt or feathers or skins. The men, take it or leave it, they weren't all that bothered. The kids, forget about the kids, unless it was cold and threw some down on the kids. And then when the Spanish came, they brought clothes with them. One size fits all type thing, and taught them how to make clothes. So the Spanish priests probably felt a lot better after that when they got them dressed up. How do I'm showing you this mural back here. The little ones at the front, big ones at the back. Okay, this shows a typical Native American village. But notice the way these guys are dressed, not much the way of clothing at all. Now that little hut with the building is called a kitchen. But they only slept in that in the winter. Then in the spring, when the weather started to warm up, they burn those down and sleep outside. Now the reason they burn them down, they would get so full of bugs and fleas, with just uncomfortable. They'd rather sleep outside. Then in the fall, when the weather started cooling up again, they'd build more of those and move into for the winter. And they tell me they were very good at building those. 2 men could build one of those in a day. We built one. It took us 2 years to do it. But we actually ran out of reeds, so we couldn't finish it off. Then when we finally got it finished, it didn't last long, because we have 50,000 fourth graders a year coming through the mission. All piled in there, all poked it, and it fell down real quick. We're going to build another one soon, hopefully a bit stronger. This name, I'll introduce myself for a minute. This name here is pronounced Ahashiman. Now that's the name of the native people who were here when the Spanish came. There's no full-blooded Ahashiman left, but there's an awful lot of Ahashiman descendants living in the area, and they play a big part in the mission. Now normally I would take you through here, but we're renovating this room now, so I can't show you. But what's in there is a big wine vat. So quite a big vat from here right to this corner here, about that deep. In the Catholic religion, you have to have the wine. Can't do without the wine. But they used to have to import it up from Mexico. Then they started growing their own vineyards back here. They'd pick the grapes, put the grapes into this vat. Get 2 young men with clean feet, had to be men, or women, feet had to be clean, so I wrote down how to do it. Do the old Isle Lucy stamp all the juice out of the grapes with the bare feet. And the juice was run into another vat, I'll be able to show that vat. And then you used to sit there till it was ready for drinking, then you had the wine. But apparently it wasn't very good wine, but they drank it anyway. Over the years it did get better. It got better over the years, but at first it wasn't much good. And that is actually the oldest winery in California, right there. You know, California history isn't old compared with the rest of the country, the rest of the world. But here in San Juan Capistrano, we have a lot of California history. I showed you the oldest building back there. This is the oldest winery. Back here we have the oldest ironworks. I'm going to be showing you the oldest church in California. And down in town, down by the station, we have the oldest residential streets in California. So there's a lot of California history in this little town. One of the reasons I live here. Any questions here? Okay, let's come. That's a brother. Yeah. Okay, squeeze in, folks. Come on, come in. Okay, now in the Catholic, how the missions made the money was out of cowhides. This is the cowhide. There used to be thousands of cattle around here. What they do, they kill the cattle, skin them, make it nice and clean. Ships used to come from back east, from Boston, New York, sail around the Cape. You guys know Dana Point, just around, a couple miles down the road here? Dana Point's a little harbour now, but in the old days it was just a beach with high cliffs like that. And that was a good anchorage for the sailing ships. So they used to take these hides to the top of the cliffs and throw them down to the ships. Take them back east, make all kinds of leather goods out of them. Real leather, and they used to call these California banknotes. They were worth $1 each. This was how the mission made their money up to these. I've got some competition here. This is a brand for Capistrano. In that case there, we have the brand for all 21 different missions in the system. Now, in 1835, there was a law student from Boston called Richard Dana, and he took a couple of years of his studies to sail one of these ships around to pick up the hides. And he wrote a book about it, and that book was called 2 Years Before the Mast. Mast is M-A-S-T. 2 years before the mast by Richard Dana. And in his book, Dana Point's named after him. In his book, he describes watching them throw the hides down the cliffs, and describes the mission. And he said this was the only romantic spot on the California coast. That's 2 years before the mast by Richard Dana. A show of hands who's read the book.
Nobody.
If you guys get a chance to read it, it's American classic, still in print, still being published. And it's a really good book. Next time you come, I'll ask you about it, okay? And in fact, in the late 1940s, they made a movie of it. And that movie was called 2 Years Before the Mast. And the old movie star, Alan Ladd, starred in that. Okay, any questions here? Okay, we're going to go back home, but... Well, my brother was here first, and me and my wife talked about it, and it took about a year to get through the immigration, and we finally okay, well, we all live here. I've lost some people.
You lost a lot.
Okay, just another 1 minute talk. Remember the Spanish built the missions, then Mexico took over, then the United States took over California. But by that time, the missions were all falling apart. Around about 1900, a group of businessmen from Los Angeles called the Landmarks Club, they came down and they started patching things up and supporting things going with the good. Then in 1910, a Roman Catholic priest called Father John O'Sullivan, he came to this. Father O'Sullivan was a very sick man. He had tuberculosis. They said to me that all the climate here would do him good. Well, apparently it did do him good because he lived another 23 or something. Well, Father O'Sullivan was a real go-getter guy. When he got here, he said, this place is too nice to fall apart, we've got to do it. So he started talking to people, started collecting money, started building things up. He built up all that wing there, remember, all that was washed away, he built that up. He built the fountain in the centre here, planted the grass and the trees, and people started showing an interest in the mission, started to do the mission. If it wasn't for Father O'Sullivan, the mission might just be for the right, so much was that problem. Now, at the end of the tour, if you guys get a chance, have a look in this exhibition gallery here. We don't have time to go in there now, but if you get a chance, have a look in there. Some nice cool things here. And for you younger guys, look in this mission clubhouse. Some cool things in everything. Now we're going to walk past the fountain, across the other side. I've got to warn you guys, don't put your fingers in the water. Some big fish in there. There's also their toilets, otherwise it's not true. And as we walk past, you'll see this round thing. It's a bread of it. But we use it occasionally for baking bread demonstrations. Okay, now we're going to go one side.
He has a question.
Oh, we have a question. I'm sorry.
Bobby, look at the palm tree. Puppy, look how big this thing is. Wait, so we'll have to put our finger inside that
The fish will bite you.
and look at the fish. Whoa, it's
Stand right there.
still.
Turn around, Isaac.
There's a church right here.
The guys are here. It comes.
If it's wrong, will it go? Will it sink?
After all the plants here, we have professionals do the lawns and the heavy work, but it's volunteers look after the rest of it. They do a nice job as well. Okay, this. Wow. So it looks just like strawberries. Now I was passing it around a couple of years ago, passing around, and this lady was holding it. She said, "Are they edible?" I said, "I don't know." So she popped it in her mouth and ate it. As far as I know, she's still alive. I don't know. If anyone can pass it around, anyone else to look at it?
Hold it.
Will it grow?
But you're not going to eat it, are you?
Hold it. Go.
I think they might be.
Oh wow, they're very soft.
No, I don't think they're native to here. I think they're probably from either Australia.
Very pulpy. Pass it
A
around.
lot of our plants.
Wait, let me see.
Okay, now remember this is one of the buildings beneath the roof of it because this is a church. This is Father Unitarian Service Church. You can see the original adobe blocks in the wall. And we're going to go inside there now. I'll explain all about it when we get inside. Also, when we get inside, just on the right-hand side, there's a little chapel. That's St. Peregrine's Chapel. And St. Peregrine is a patron saint of cancer sufferers. And they go out suffering from cancer or know somebody else cancer. They go in there and spend a few minutes, light the candle, and get one down. That's St. Peregrine. I'll show you that as we go. See, there's a statue of St. Peregrine at the end there. He had cancer of the leg. Cancer of his right leg, but they showed you there, it showed his left leg, cancer of the left leg. Apparently the guy who did the sculpture of the statue got his leg smashed off and he showed it on one leg. Okay folks, this is Father Unitarian Service Church. Still a church, they have mass in here every morning at 7 o'clock. They have the occasional weddings and funerals here, but not many, just basically for the descendants of the old families of the town. You're going to get special permission to get married. And it's the oldest church in California. It's the only church left that Father Unitarian Service preached in. All the others are down. And when it's first built, it was just a dirt floor. Didn't have these tiles, didn't have these pews. People just sat on the floor and stood up. And the little paintings what you see around the wall, they came from Spain. They're over 300 years old. It's part of the Catholic religion called Stations of the Cross. There's 14 of them altogether. Each one tells a little story about the crucifixion. Now the golden altar, the real name for that is a retablo, golden retablo. And it's cherry wood as a base covered in gold leaf. And that's over 400 years old. And that started off like with the church in Barcelona, in Spain. And they pulled that church down. Well, around about 1900, they were going to build a new cathedral in Los Angeles. Started the project for the new cathedral. But they didn't build the cathedral. They built it since, but they didn't build it then. Well, Father O'Sullivan, the guy who's telling about who restored the mission, he asked him to bring it here. So they brought it here, 396 pieces. No instructions how to put it all together. It took them over a year to figure it all out. And finally had to raise the roof a little bit to get it all in. But it's a beautiful work of art, we're very proud of it. As you see, we have statues of different saints around it. The one in the middle with the red banner, that's St. John of Capistrano. He's a patron saint of the mission. And Capistrano is a little town in Italy where he came from. And he's carrying a red banner. He was a soldier. They called him the soldier saint. I guess he won a couple of battles on the famous saint. And this painting up here, this is St. John of Capistrano as well. Now, I think Father Unified said, may have brought this painting with him, because it arrived for the mission around about that time. Now, the pulpit, see the round pulpit here where the priest would go to preach the sermon? That canopy on the top, it's not just decoration. But in the old days, before they had microphones, that was the sounding board. His voice would bounce up that and bounce it back to the church so more people could hear. So if you go to any church now and see a pulpit like that with a canopy, that was the original extension of the canopy, really. The purpose of the canopy was sound. Now about weddings. There was one famous wedding took place here. You guys are far too young to remember it. But we may have, some of you may have heard the name, Mary Pickford. Who remembers the name Mary Pickford? I see who's from here. Okay. Mary Pickford, you younger guys, Mary Pickford, she was an old silent movie star. When they first started making silent movies in Los Angeles, they discovered Juan Capistrano. Thought it was a great place to film with the old buildings and the ruins here. So they used to get the train down here, stay at the Mendelssohn Inn where the park is now, do the film and take off. Well, Mary Pickford, she was in the first movie that was filmed here. And she made at least one more after that. And she fell in love with the place. And she said when she got married, she was going to get married here. She was only 18 at the time, she said that. Well, she married a guy called Owen Moore. But she didn't get married here, she got married there somewhere else. But a few years later, she came down here with Owen Moore and she went through the full ceremony in the church. So she'd had a wish she'd been married in the church. Then she divorced Owen Moore and married Douglas Fairbanks. Well, then she was divorced her, so they won't let her get married in the church, but she'd have to. And if you guys go in that exhibition gallery, which is only up on the far side, there's a very nice painting of Mary Pickford at the wedding. Nice, real nice painting. Okay, any questions here?
When was the organ added? When was the organ added? The pipe organ?
This organ, it's about 3 years old.
3?
It's a new organ. For years, we didn't have anything. It was a choir originally. And I then the had an organ years ago, rather than that organ. But we got this one about 3 years ago.
Is it new or was it brought here from somewhere else? Is it new?
Oh, it's brand new. Brand new, yeah. And I haven't heard it played. You know, they play it very rarely. When they say they're going to practice, you know, I come in for the practice and listen to it, and we cancel the practice. So, I'm yet to hear it. Oh no, he said Mass in order to, you know, the question is, was this the only church where Father said Mass? But no, because he built the first 9 missions, built the church, so he did Mass in all of the churches. But this was the only one that's left where he said Mass. All the others are carried on. Yeah. Any more questions?
The painting on the side of the wall.
The original. But what it was, the story is that when they first built the church, you know, the priest said to this Native American who was really hammered it with the paintbrush, you do the decoration. He had help, of course. But he never told us, he never said what it meant. We know the top part is the ocean. And they, you know, we used to do a lot of fishing, of course, in the ocean. Well, the bottom part, we don't know. Over the years, different experts have come and given us their interpretation of it, you know. So we're totally confused now.
What happens when you bring in an expert?
Okay, any more questions? Okay, let's walk further down. Okay, folks, this is the cemetery, the original cemetery. Now, from just beyond the white wall there to the iron fence here, there are over 3,000 people buried in there. How they used to do it in the old days, when a person died, they'd wrap them in a sheet and bury them. When the cemetery got full, they'd dig them up and shove all the bones to one side, so they had more room for more people. So we finished up with over 3,000. But we know all the names. In the church archives, we know exactly who's here. Whether they were Native Americans, Spanish, Mexicans, Americans, we know who's here. We don't know where they are, but we know they're in there somewhere. There's one grave that we do know, this one here. This is Father John O'Sullivan, the guy who's telling about who restored the mission. And he built this column to commemorate all the people who are buried in this cemetery. Any questions here?
So he was Irish.
Well, he's from Kentucky. But I guess his parents were Irish.
Where is he from? Kentucky? Kentucky.
The story behind this, Jose Antonio Yorba, he was one of the first soldiers to come into California, exploring California. And he helped to build Mission San Juan Capistrano. Now when he retired, they gave him a big plot of land up in northern Orange County at the city of Yorba Linda. Anyway, when Jose died, he said he wanted to be buried in the mission, but not in his cemetery, because he knew eventually they'd dig him up and shove him to one side. He wants his own grave. So we believe he's buried in the mission somewhere, but we don't know where. His descendants put this plaque up for him a few years ago. Okay, folks, now we're going to walk all the way around the stone church, and then I'll tell you all about the stone church when we get back, okay? Okay, folks, now remember there's 21 missions, right from San Diego to the other side of San Francisco. There's one road connecting all these missions. Anybody know what the road is called? El Camino Real. Called it El Camino Real. Still goes all the way up there, not one continuous pace, but as you travel through California, you keep running to sections of El Camino Real. This is part of it out here. And in English it means the King's Highway. I call you out that time. Okay folks, now when the mission was basically finished, all that part was done, and people were using the Syria church we've just been in, they decided they wanted a bigger church. But they didn't want to build it out of adobe like the rest of the mission. They wanted to build it out of stone like they do in Europe. So they started building this church in 1797. It took them 9 years to build it. When it was finished, it stretched from right back there, right back to here. There's a bell tower where these bells are, as high as a palm tree there. It was a magnificent building for its time. In fact, it was the largest building this side of the Mississippi when it was finished. And that's where Mission San Juan Capistrano got the name the Jewel of the Missions, because of this church. But it was only a church for 6 years. Then one Sunday morning in 1812, people were in the church, the service was going on, and the earthquake came. The bell tower fell down across the roof here. People tried to get to the doorway here and the doorway in the centre. The priest was down there, said, come this way. He directed a few people through a little doorway in the corner there. But unfortunately, 42 people were killed here in the church. And they're all buried in that little cemetery where we've just been. And they never rebuilt the church. They made one or two half-hearted attempts out of adobe, but it didn't work out. Now the two big bells here, they were in the bell tower, but they got cracked. They don't ring anymore. The two big bells you see over here, they're copies of these bells. And the two little bells, they were in the bell tower, they survived, they still ring. But they only ring those bells on special occasions. You're not going to hear it today. Okay? About the earthquake, they estimate the earthquake was between a 7 and a 7.4, which was quite a strong earthquake. But it was about 100 miles from here in the hills east of Los Angeles. And the rest of the mission, the adobe section, has done up to it pretty well, but this church just fell down. I'll tell you a little personal story about bells. As you know, I was educated in England. I left school when I was 14. I wasn't a dropout, but that's you lived in those days. Unless you were kind of smart, you went to another school for 2 years. I wasn't smart, they kicked me out. But my first job when I left school, just outside town, was a boys' private boarding school. It's a big school, laid out just like the mission, a big square. On the ground floor was the classrooms, above the classrooms were the dormitories where the boys slept. In the middle of the square, a little disused chapel with a little bell tower. Every morning at 6 o'clock, I had to go in this bell tower and ring the bell for 5 minutes. 4 minutes slow, the last minute as fast as it goes. That was to wake everyone up. Then I had to ring it to go to breakfast, to go to class, to change class, to go to lunch, back to class. Right through the day, I used to ring this bell. My last bell was 6 o'clock at night. Just off to one side, we had a bigger church with a bigger bell tower. I used to ring that bell for everyone to go to church. But I used to have fun with that bell because it was a bigger bell. I could swing on a rope when I was ringing it. And that was my first job when I left school. I didn't make a career out of it. Okay, any questions here? Okay, let's walk further down. Dome here, right above my head was an even bigger dome. 3 more domes here, and 2 more up on either side, and 3 more down the island. So it's quite a magnificent building. I remember I said they made 1 or 2 half-hearted attempts to rebuild it out of adobe. But a few years ago, things went interior. He wanted to save as much as his trucks as he could. So it took about 8 years, cost a lot of money. They had to replace them. If you look at that column there, you see they had to replace the column. Because they put the original stonework in it. There's 2 columns here. The base of these columns were too far gone, they had to replace the whole base of it. Those who went inside the wall, were reinforced the walls. So that if the earthquake came now, hopefully everything would stay up just in it. You know, there are ruins like this all over Europe. But this is the only ruin of its time in the United States. So for that reason alone,
It's in the European cathedral tradition.
exactly. The cross is around the end of the that's a doorway there, the police in this way. Hey folks, we have a statue of Father Uniparis here. Actually, it's Saint Uniparis here, because the Pope came to Washington in September, made him a saint. And we were hoping that the Pope would come here and do it, make me say, because this is where Father Uniparis did all his work here in California. And in fact, we had a petition going, thousands of people signed a petition, but it didn't work. They didn't come. It would have been a security nightmare anyway if he had to come. But he built the first 9 missions, then he died, but continued building to build 21. These are the bells that ring, just on special occasions. Actually, that big bell at the end, we're ringing that one at 9 o'clock every morning. 9 o'clock to signify that Father Uniparis built the first 9 missions. And we're striking it just 7 times to signify that this was the 7th mission to be built. And it's 3 men who ring the bells. It's handed down generation to generation on those 3 men. They're the young people allowed to ring the bells. As you see, we have a plaque on the wall. They let Richard Nixon ring the bells all the time. And I tell them I used to be a professional bell ringer, but they won't let me ring them. Actually, I have that big bell at the end. I have rung that a couple of times. If I happen to be here at 9 o'clock, and one of the bell ringers don't show up, they say, Derek, go and ring the bell. So I ring that. I've done that. Okay, any questions here? Okay, come on, let's go this way. But we don't have time to go in there now, we're running out of time. But back here we have the Legacy of Saints here exhibit. That's well, if you guys get a chance to have a look at that. Now we're going back in here. Okay folks, as you see, we have a very nice mountain mission here when it was in its prime. There's the church when it was live before it fell down. And I met you guys down here, and we came through here, down here, along here, then came round the back here, along here, across here where the fountain is, across here, down there, into the church, through the cemetery, into the ruins of the stone church there. And now we're back here in this room in the corner here. Now this room we call the Forster room. There was an Englishman from Liverpool in England called John Foster. And he came to California, he wanted to buy land. But it was owned by Mexico. You had to be a Mexican citizen before you could buy the land. Well, John Foster was a resourceful guy. He changed his name from John to Juan. Then he put a law in Foster, make it Forster, sounding more Spanish sounding. Then the last Mexican governor of California is a guy called Pico. He married Pico's sister. So he had a real foot in the door then. And he bought the mission with 48 acres around it for $710, which is quite a good deal. And he moved his family in here. This is one room to live in, this room here, and also through there. And he lived here for about 20 years. Then 3 weeks before Abraham Lincoln died, he signed the document and a mission back to the church. So Juan Foster had to move his family out. But his descendants still, some of them still live in the area, I know the family. And that's one of the reasons we're in the bells. We're in the bells on Abraham Lincoln's birthday. We're thankful for Abraham Lincoln's case. Any questions here, folks? Okay, now there's 3 little rooms here. There's too many of us to fit in the first 2 rooms, so I'm going to tell you about them. The first room is a dining room. If you look to the left, you'll see the dining table there and some of the original utensils on there. You'll notice some chocolate, bars of chocolate at the end of the table. They used to drink a lot of hot chocolate. It was a favourite drink there. But it's very bitter. We couldn't drink it, but they liked it. Then the room beyond that is a bedroom, an even smaller room. It's in a little wooden bed, but it's 3 shoes, kind of visible to the room, but that was his thing. And the room after that, I'll meet you in there, okay? Any questions here before we leave? Okay, let's go. This room we call the Father Much room. Father Much, he was a priest here from about 1860 to 1880. That's a picture of Father Much on the wall. But the mission was all falling apart. See that photograph on the wall? That was taken around about the same era. This is the evidence really run down. And Father Much, he wanted to build things up, get things going, but he didn't have much money. He did some work, but not what he wanted to do. But this was his living room. We even have his glasses on the table there. That's Father Much's glasses. And he had a little classroom here. He used to teach the local children in this room here. And his bedroom was upstairs. But in those days, they didn't have this staircase. He had a rope ladder. When he went to bed, he'd climb up his rope ladder and pull it up after him. There were a lot of bad guys hanging around San Juan Capistrano those days. It was a real Wild West town in those days. And then it was safe then. Okay. Any questions here? Okay, just one more thing to show you guys. We'll go out by this way. Come on, guys. Shot, yeah. Okay, folks, now this is the soldiers' barracks. There's where the soldiers are. There was always some soldiers with each mission, not many, between 6 and 12. And their job was protection, of course, also to escort the priests from mission to mission, and also to help educate the Native Americans. And their nickname was leather jackets. See the guy on the wall there with the leather jacket? That jacket was made between 6 and 12 layers of leather. That was his protection. And each soldier had to have 6 horses, and one of the horses had to be saddled at all times, ready for emergencies. But this is the type of furniture he had in those days. And you see the rope bed at the end? When it got slack like that, you had to tighten it up to make it more comfortable. That's where the old saying comes from. Sleep tight, don't let the bed bugs bite. Tighten the bed up there. Okay, now you guys face this way now. Little ones to the front. Come on around here. Don't go too far away. These are some of the weapons had in those days. You see that little shotgun at the top? It's called a trabuco. The first soldier to come into California in 1769, one of the soldiers lost his trabuco in a canyon just north of it. They never found it, so they call that canyon Trabuco Canyon. It's still called Trabuco Canyon now. Then the second weapon down, see the wooden part, the wooden stock? It's shaped like that. The soldier didn't have to get up his horse to fire his weapon, just took it under his arm and shoot. The only problem, when he fired up one shot, he had to get up and do all this kind of stuff to reload it again. Then we have a couple of Spanish swords here. Then this long musket at the bottom is actually a Revolutionary War musket. Because remember when we started building the mission in 1776, Revolutionary War was going from the East Coast. This white uniform here, it's an officer's uniform. But I can't imagine an officer wearing that out, it's just too fancy. He'd wear something like that white jacket at the end there. You see the little box with all the holes in it? The soldier would carry his musket balls in that. His musket balls with his bullets were like little marbles. And I used to wonder about that. Why would a soldier carry a bulky thing like that just for a few musket balls? Why not put them in a bag? And a military man told me, he said, well, the musket balls were made out of lead, which is a soft metal. If you put them all together in a bag, they tend to get warped, good. So they have to keep them separate in the box like that. Then the horn, this is a powder horn, the soldier to keep his gunpowder in it. Okay, any questions, folks?
The window up top.
What's that?
The window. It looks like a ship's port.
Right, actually it was a ventilation hole in those days.
So it was just added with glass.
It wouldn't have any glass in it. Okay, let's go this way. Okay, folks, that's the end of the tour. Thank you for coming. I've enjoyed it. I always enjoy the tours. We've enjoyed it. And we have a very nice art gallery there, some nice paintings there, nice video. It's the same video as I've over the years. And don't forget the exhibition gallery down there. Some nice things there. We'll have a look. Of course, it's back here as well. But thank you for coming, folks. Come back and see us again. Any questions before I leave? About you? Actually, I'm going to let the tour start in 1 minute, so I'm going to go there. If you guys want to join that tour again, here for me, you're welcome to. And if you have any questions, That's a question.
What is your favorite
My favourite part, the cedar chips. I think because it's the most historical part. And I like the stone chips. Okay. And I also went in about 3:30 we have question and answer, fourth grade question and answer. So if you guys are still around, any questions. But you can't ask me questions, you don't know. Well, thank you for coming, folks, and come back and see us again.
Thank you.